Good evening, Pete. No, not Harry Potter's sorting hat. It's just a general pointy, witchy kind of hat. Good evening, Evelyn, or Evelyn. Still haven't sorted that one out. Good evening, Pete. It's not a Harry Potter hat. It's just a general kind of pointy witch's hat selected tonight because I'm not this as close as I'm going to get to Halloween, I think. So, Halloween comes early. I've even got a sort of slightly horror-oriented t-shirt here. And this is one of the possible Batman items on display tonight. In fact, here it is. Not actually Batman as such, but it's a promotional city for Coast. It's a promotional t-shirt for Coast City Comics, a very decent comic shop situated in the lovely town of Portland in the American state of Maine. And I saw they have this spoof Batman. I think it's listed somewhere down there. Yeah, there you go, Portland, Maine. And they have this spoof Batman t-shirt, so I thought, well, how can I leave that there? It's not the kind of thing I'll find anywhere else, so I bought one. Not quite my colour, I prefer dark t-shirts, but then again, if it was dark, would you be able to see the Bat logo on top of it? Probably not. Anyway, how are we all? Everybody okay? And Christine's here. Good evening, Christine. Bonsoir. Debbie, hi. And yeah, Pete, Halloween, you'll be close to home for a few hours. With a bit of hope. Andy, good evening. Lovely to see you. And Andy and Debbie, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it yesterday. I really was. It was one of those situations there. What do? You've lost your glasses and you can't really see anything much without them, even in Christmas. I went scavenging around, and by the time I'd found them, which was about 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock, somewhere in the mid-evening anyway, all I felt like doing was lying down and having a nap. So that's the way it went. So, Hugh, hi there. So yes, good evening everybody, and just explain to Pete, this is just a general purpose witchy hat for Halloween. It's got a fetching little, don't know if you can see it, fetching little twist up here on the top. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Let's see if I can get it at a slightly more rakish angle. No, that's not too good. No, I like to think it's a good hat for Guy Fawkes as well. Et bonsoir, madame. Right, where was I? Yes, Andy, Debbie, Batman item number 1, a publicity t-shirt for the Coast City Comic Shop in Portland in the state of Maine. Obviously based on the logo for the Batman TV series, but with a proper vampire head with a single eye, so also good for Halloween. I will whip up Batman item number 2 while we're on, and Batman item number 2 is, I'm not sure if this has made an appearance before, but if it hasn't, here it is. It's the Batman money box. Yeah, you can see the slot in the top there, and as you can hear, it's not good. It's actually very contemporary, because if you follow the comics at all, within the last few months, Bruce Wayne has lost his fortune, he's lost Wayne Manor, somebody else is being Batman, he's dressing up as Batman, working out of various cellars in the low-life parts of Gotham City, and clearly he needs more money in his money box. Sad state of affairs. So here we are, Batman money box. Vampire Batman t-shirt. Ricky, good evening, mate. I hope this is going to be suitably boring, by the way. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. I looked at what I prepared earlier and thought, wow, that looks really boring. So let's see if I can bore the pants off of you. But first, a piece of music. And this is nothing really to do with anything that's going on this evening, but then most of the music isn't going to be. In fact, I haven't really prepared any music because I've pretty much run out of pieces to do with comics. I've recorded them all on the daily recordings. So if anyone's got any requests or suggestions, you like my bollards then, Ricky, so to speak. If you have any requests, any suggestions, rack them up and I'll see what I can do, see what I can find on the karaoke. There won't be any sax because I've actually packed all my saxophones away prior to doing a bit of travelling tomorrow, which some of you know all about. So yeah, not a saxophone out of its box in the house. So it was all saxophones last time, it'll be all recorders this time. And this was requested yonks ago, like 2 months ago or something like that, by Pete Martin Sr. And I never got around to doing it, so let's give it a go. If this thing works properly. It does! This is very ad hoc, it's been rehearsed in the last 15 minutes. Everybody dance. It's not really a karaoke, you just have to play along with the backing track, well, the full track. Here we go again. Four bars every time. Except that time it's a 2-bar gap that time. Pick up the pieces. Ooh-ha. Pick up the pieces. What's that? Pick up the pieces. Play a solo. 1972, disco. Pre-disco, I suppose, actually, but it's when the whole disco thing's starting to take off in New York, so I kind of associated with it. And there is a slight connection, it occurs to me as I was playing it, because later on I'm actually going to finally get around to talking about comics, and they will be of the Scottish variety. And of course, the Average White Band were a bunch of very Scottish guys, sounding like they were an American funk band. Quite an achievement. Anyway, there we go. That was Pick Up the Pieces. That's quite all right, Pete. I hope you enjoyed it. Nancy, great to see you. Lovely. Hope you're well. And everybody else. Am I missing everybody else? Did I see Indra up there for a moment? Indra was... yeah. Hi there, Indra. Yeah, everyone's sort of saying things like, yeah. Do you like soul music? No, says Hugh Lynch. Hi, Hugh. Fantastic. Hugh wants the theme from Lumpy Gravy. Oh, I can play that on saxophone. Let me try that. Theme from Lumpy Gravy. Wrong key, try higher. No. Hope you don't mind me watching me rehearse this as I go along, but I'll figure it out. Oh, this could take some time. That's probably as close as you're going to get, Hugh. Sorry about that. If I had the tenor sax here, I could play it for you straight off. But Christine, are they packed? Well, they're packed away because I'm leaving the house all by itself for a while. The saxophones that get played with the Australian Pink Floyd are not the ones that I keep at home. They've been locked up in a box somewhere in storage since March of last year. And I will be saying hello to them on Wednesday and spending quite a lot of time on Wednesday going over them, preparing them, and trying my nice new French mouthpieces on them, which they were made specially for it, and they haven't had a chance. They didn't arrive until after the lockdown started, so very much looking forward to that investigation, and that I'll be making a lot of noise on Wednesday, much to the disgust of everybody else in the organisation, I'm sure, but tough on them. It's been 20 months. They'll have to live with it. Right, heavens, 8:15. Let me just flick over to another browser for a second. I want to check on something. Wow! Okay. Whoa. Okay. Right. I've just. And Ricky, absolutely, and same with everybody else. And I know Dave's had millions of guitars out, and Bonnie probably can't remember what a drum kit is. Jason will have been practicing, and the girls, I'm sure, will have been doing lots of singing. But yes, yeah, absolutely, get them out, go over them, get the rust off the strings, check any bits that need changing, need oiling, repairing. It's going to be a serious technical day on Wednesday, but really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to seeing everybody again after all this time. Let's hope it goes well, chaps. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm bringing a load of industrial strength masks with filters. Not quite Kevlar, but pretty close. And I fully intend to be doing a lot of mask wearing. Right, where was I before I started off on that? Yes, I actually... Luckily, saxophones don't grow out. Then again, you never know. I might actually peek inside the saxophones and find that I've got lots of mushrooms growing in there. or like all kinds of strange little subterranean items, things that grow under the bottom of a stone, things that grow in slime. Who knows? It could be, because I didn't do a fantastic job cleaning everything up before I packed them away, because we didn't know that we were stopping the tour at that point. It was only later that we discovered, and by that point, all my saxes were packed away at the back of the truck somewhere. So it could be there could be live action going on within the saxophones right now. Perhaps I should come armed with fly spray and Agent Orange and useful things like that. Still, yeah, a nice glass of red. Yeah, definitely a nice glass of red. We'll be doing some of that on Wednesday night, I'm sure, mate. Anyway, yes, over on the other news, I actually put a bid in on a recorder, as if I don't have enough recorders already. But this was a rather special effort, and wow, I've won it. It closed, the auction closed 6 minutes ago. I was fully expecting to get automatic bids coming in and trumping me at the end of the night, but no, one other guy bid against me like about 12 hours ago, and left it when he didn't beat my maximum bid. So I've got it. Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. This is a Xenon handmade Japanese cherry wood tenor recorder. These things sell for about £800–900. They're not cheap. Very expensive, very highly regarded. And I've just won one for 88 quid. Way! And the seller does click and collect, which means that I will be picking it up from the Argos in Liverpool on Sunday when we pass through. Yay! Oh, that's great. That's really good. Fantastic. I shall have a big sort of spastic dance around the room later on, thinking about that. So here we are. Andy, indeed. You reckon Pete will be dehydrated? Debbie, they'll be able to play themselves. Oh, they do that anyway. I just do the dancing. You know, the saxophones do all the work. I'm just the guy who hangs it around his neck and moves his fingers and moves his legs and makes little dancing motions and all that kind of thing. You reckon they'll be dehydrated by now, Pete? I sincerely hope so. If they're not, then it's time to ask some questions about the lockup where we keep them. Andy, yes, absolutely. There'll be viruses aplenty breeding in there, and I should definitely do some serious cleaning before I start blowing things out all over the place. Bargain, Pete, absolutely, unbelievable. Totally expecting somebody to trump me. I mean, my top bid. I was prepared to go. These things are so expensive that I was prepared to go up to 300 quid, in the hope that I wouldn't have to go that far. And if it went over 300 quid, then fine, let somebody else spend more than £300 on it. But £88, that's absurd for what it is, and judging by the photographs, it's in extremely good condition. It's hardly been touched. So wow, something to look forward to at the weekend on Halloween, together with all the other exciting activities planned for Sunday, which involve coming back to the house and collecting my suitcase, because it occurred to me I can take enough gear for the next few days in a small bag, and then I can go back home on Sunday, collect my suitcase and take my suitcase directly by train over to Lime Street and then across the road into the Empire, which will be much less effort than flogging it all the way across the country for the production rehearsal. So planning ahead. Right, time is passing and I've got loads and loads of talking to do. So, Cannonball, let me finish off the Cannonball Adelaide bit. And where I left it, he was making highly successful soul funk records in the late 1960s. Now, that was a time, the late 1960s, the hippie era, the psychedelic era, but beyond the drugs and beyond the clothing and everything, culture in the Western world was, at that time, entering a phase of exploration, wild exploration. Possibly, I mean, you could sum it up in the words of pop band Blue Mink. Anybody remember Blue Mink? As a melting pot. Fusion was another word used at the time, but in the world of jazz that's become mixed up with various other subgenres that developed in the early 1970s. Despite that, though, it's a good word, I think, for what can be seen in retrospect as a far-reaching combination of genres in an attempt to find new kinds of music amid the more traditional ones. So classical composers began working with pop music instruments like electric guitars and investigating pop forms. Pop and rock musicians were intrigued by the longer forms of classical music. Indian music, huge interest in Indian music, evident in all musical fields, and perhaps starting with the Beatles, certainly very much encouraged by the Beatles, but in jazz world as well. Ravi Shankar enjoyed enormous popularity at that point, the Indian musician. Jazz musicians were trying to blend with other popular forms, and so on. Mixing and matching were the cultural spirit of the late 60s. And as it moved into the late 70s, Cannonball Adderley, far from his little funk soul hits, were deeply engaged in this kind of experimentation. If anyone's really interested, I recommend 2 live LPs, The Black Messiah and Music You All. Both were recorded during a week of Los Angeles club dates in August 1971, and they showed the standard Cannonball Adderley quintet working with locally based guest musicians, trying their hands at electric blues, rock, freeform electronics, soul and style of Stevie Wonder, Brazilian music, as well as their usual funk and jazz material. The results could have been chaotic, but instead, I think what you get is a glimpse of a musician who was looking at as many contemporary popular music styles as he could, fusing them, not by mixing them all up together, but by putting side by side within the context of a recording, rather than by blending styles within the compositions themselves. So, they'll play a long electric piece with freeform electric piano going on, then Cannonball sings a samba, Cannonball sings a Brazilian song in Portuguese, and then you'll go into an electric blues number. There's all kinds of music going on there. Very, very exhilarating stuff. Highly recommended. But, of course, late 1971, by that point, the other album, The Black Messiah, was released at the time. Music You All was not released until 1976, and by that time it was nothing more than an historical document of a time long past. By 1972, the notion of the melting pot was in decline. Can you tell I'm reading this stuff? And wild musical experimentation was being replaced by set crossovers between genres, jazz and rock, for example, jazz funk, jazz and disco. Certainly by 73, most of the bands who had been experimenting a few years earlier were settled down on a particular course. Adderley and his producer, David Axelrod, quite a cult figure these days, as mentioned last time, took a rather different route, and not in retrospect a very happy one. They recorded a series of 3 albums in which the band essentially functioned as backing musicians for spoken word performances. 2 of these were in collaboration with Los Angeles jazz disc jockey Rick Holmes and dealt with themes based on the Zodiac. The 3rd adapted various texts from the Bible. Clearly these were sincere efforts in terms of putting across messages about astrology and religion and so on, but in purely musical terms there's little to relish or even to hear. The music is mixed very low and the narrations are mixed right up front, but they're not the interesting part of it. And 3 albums of this in a row effectively took Cannonball out of the mainstream of jazz music and jazz development for the first time in his career. On further studio sets, he adopted more the standard jazz funk direction, including on one album where he recorded a set of his own old hits, but in 1970s funky style. He hadn't given up experimenting. In 1975 he recorded a hugely ambitious score which I've only just come across, only just been able to find a copy. It's on YouTube, and he wrote a musical called Big Man, based on the American myth of the steel driving man John Henry. And this with a huge amount of performers. Apparently it's Randy Crawford's recording debut, and it puts together pop, jazz, orchestral music, all within a single framework. An extraordinary thing. I only found it a few days ago. I listened to it. A remarkable piece of work. Where he would have gone is anybody's guess, because in 1976, unfortunately, he died of a stroke. He was only aged 47. Took a marvellous musician out of play. I mean, history hasn't been kind to his later works, perhaps mostly because they didn't really quite fit with the commercial drive of the times, but also perhaps because they were recorded for Fantasy Records, an independent jazz label which has long since disappeared into corporate ownership. Unlike many other popular musicians who died too early, he left at a point when his career and future directions seemed quite uncertain. What would he have done next? Who knows? Or maybe he wouldn't have done anything next. Maybe he would have just wandered off into the 80s of going back to what he was doing in the 60s and playing the nostalgia route, as many people did. It doesn't make his music valueless, though. Search it out for yourself. Have a look on YouTube, give it a listen. Especially do listen to the Black Messiah. It's a strange, mixed up, but really exciting kind of record, I think. Sadly, I don't have any backing tracks for this late Cannonball music, which is why I've been doing things like trying to play the theme from Lumpy Gravy at Hugh's request, and also playing Pick Up the Pieces at Pete's request. So I'd love to play something. I mean, I can try having another bash at Walk Tall, which I played last week. Tony Howard, Christine, is not here. I haven't seen him for ages. Don't know what's happened to him. Let me see, let's just file back a bit here. Pete, thank you for volunteering to take the case on Sunday. That's very kind of you, but I suspect that I'm going to have to clear a few things out of the wardrobe case and get them back to my house, because if I don't, there's a problem with this tour, because it actually ends in Belfast, which means we'll be flying back on Ryanair with massively limited baggage. So anything that gets taken out needs to go home at this point. So basically I'll get a couple of bags of stuff, if necessary, out, and I will put those bags in a cab it over to mine, finish packing the suitcase, pick up all the things that I have currently forgotten that in the next few days I will realise that I can't live without, and then toddle it down to the train station and get over, and then go to Argos and pick up this recorder. Yay! Fantastic. Marvellous. Rupert! You're back! It's good to see you. I haven't seen you posting much lately, but you're back in the country, or are you still somewhere in Greece? Which I thought was Sweden. I got my flags completely wrong there. You showed a flag and I went, oh, Sweden! And no, oh well, wrong again. Evelyn, I'm a mine of information. Unfortunately, very little of it is useful. Certainly got a lot of stuff going on in the back of my head, and sit around, there's going to be quite a lot more of it. Okay, anybody got a request? Have a think about that for a second and type up if you wish. I'll have a go at anything within reason. Well, basically as long as I know it, sort of thing. But yeah, make requests while I have a quick sip on the contents of today's drinking utensil, which I haven't introduced yet. Here is today's drinking utensil, and it is an absolutely bog standard bar heavyweight German Weizen beer glass. I've got a couple more which are much nicer pieces of work, fluted, but this is a solid piece of, this is the kind of thing you drink in a bar when they fully expect you to end up drunk and throwing things from all over the place. A theme from Spartacus. Hugh, are you referring to the Aeneid line, by any chance, or are you referring to Spartacus the movie, in which everybody now say, no, I'm Spartacus. I couldn't hear you. Try it again louder. No, I'm Spartacus. No, afraid this microphone is only one way. I'm not getting anything back from you at all. Theme from Spartacus. Well, let me see if I've got... I do know where to look for that kind of thing, actually, and it would be under 20th century. It would be the file of 20th century Russian composers. Yes, folks, I have a music file of 20th century Russian composers. And here's your man, Khatchurian. And do I get the right one? This might be the one. I'll turn it up a bit. Long time since I've listened to this. Right, I shall quietly fade that out at this point. Because it's got past the big tune, which is the only bit that I know. So, yeah, that was Memories of the Unneeding line, and I'm standing there frantically... How about Paper Sun, says Andy. Ooh, Alex North's theme from the movie. Santana, amongst others, has done it. Right, so you weren't... thank you, Pete. I am Spartacus too. Or no, I am Spartacus. Do I have the Renaissance instruments, or are they packed too? I have, at hand, the Dubry, which is waiting to go back in its case. Not quite sure what I can do with it. Don't know what that was. I just made it up. But there you go. Yeah, a brief burst on the Dewberry. For those, Christine and Evelyn and people like that who are not familiar with this, the Dewberry is as you can see, quite a lengthy reed cap pipe of the Renaissance era. Whether it actually existed at the time is a matter of question. It's described, it's supposedly described, according to the early music shop who make these things and sell them, it's described in Michael Pretorius's book Syntagma Musicum, which was published in 1619, and there's like the absolute go-to research encyclopedia of music as it was at that time in history. And he listed all kinds of musical instruments, and they claim that he listed this thing called a Loriman pipe, which I call the Dewberry, from my friend Malcolm, who helps me basically put the thing together and drill the finger holes in the right places, and he did all the hard work. I just play the thing. And I'm familiar with Pretorius. I've been through Pretorius's book. I even have a copy, although it's in German. Not aware of an English translation that I can afford, and I've never come across any mention of anything called a Loriman pipe or anything that looks like this. So to be honest, I think the early music shop have made it up. However, it's a very nice sounding instrument. It's quite loud. A lot of these instruments, a lot of the wind instruments of that period were very quiet. Life was quieter in those days, and but this is quite loud, quite beefy, and especially if you point it at the microphone. Again, no idea what that was. A little dance tune, just made it up. I do like to make little tunes up, and these instruments are marvellous for it. So here we have what I call the Dewberry, what the early music shop calls the Loriman pipe, and it may be thoroughly inauthentic, but it sounds nice. It's got the right kind of Renaissance wind cap instrument sound. Now when I say wind cap instrument, that's because it's got a reed, and you take the top off, screwing carefully, and there's your reed. That's the actual thing there that makes the sound. It's a double reed of a kind that you will find in the orchestra on the oboe and the bassoon, but they are open. A bassoon player and oboist play with their lips directly on the reed. Very difficult. This is much easier. You blow into the top of the wind cap. There is, let me get it round the right way. Yep, there's a little slot. Yep, there you go. Just blow into that slot, and it makes the reed vibrate, and you can more or less tune it with the finger holes. It's great, lovely thing. Oops. Yet another one. That's 3 tunes I've made up this evening. Perhaps I should be chanting for these strings. Anyway, there you go, Pete. That's the only Renaissance instrument that's actually handy at the moment. Most of the rest are packed in cases, and now I've played it a bit, I might pack it on a case and take it with me. I think it's the sort of thing that ought to be on tour and can be whipped out at moments when no one suspects. Right, paper song. We've got a paper song request. Teleports by Gentle Giants. Yeah, Gentle Giants. Whoa, thank you. Half expecting a snake to appear. Yes. Rupert, it's a proper witch's hat with the, as you see, pointy bit on top, for Halloween, and it goes with the Batman as vampire bat with a single eye logo on this here T-shirt. No, the Dewberry actually has a plastic reed as made by the early music shop, it would be perfectly possible to use a bamboo reed, and I do have. I have a cornemuse with a bamboo reed, and I have a bamboo reed in the soprano crumhorn. Bamboo is basically a very traditional material for that kind of thing, and there's no reason why I couldn't doctor a bamboo reed and put it in the dubri. The easiest reeds of the kind to get are the ones for the wind cap instrument which survived into the modern era, which is the bagpipe. You can get bagpipe reeds for not very much at all, and one of these days I will get a batch and work on it and see if I can move it around, because once that reed's gone, then it's going to be quite difficult. I either have to buy an expensive replacement, if they still make them, or just hang it up on the wall and go, well, there is a dubri, alas poor dubri, I knew it well, etc. Yep, no, that wasn't, yes, absolutely replying to Pete. Who's replying to Pete? I don't know. No, it didn't look like bamboo, it was definitely plastic. Evelyn, you learn something new every day. That's my speciality. Pete, tonight's drinking vessel is a very cheap, cheerful, bog standard Weizen beer container. Notice the special length of it, the taper down to the bottom, and the sort of bulbous bit at the top. Do you know about Weizen beer? Weizen beer it's a German wheat beer. You have a special way of pouring it. If you pour it properly, what you do is you get the bottle open, slant the glass slightly, put the bottle right down into the bottom of the glass and pull it out, letting the beer come out, allowing gravity to pull the beer out of the bottle. But you keep an eye on the bottle, and before you get to the bottom, which is where you've got some yeast floating around, you whip it out. So you've got a clear yellow liquid sort of more or less up to the top of the glass, and you've got a yeasty, scummy liquid in the bottom of the bottle. You then put the bottle on a flat surface and roll it backwards and forwards a few times. Then you lift it up and you drop it from a height into the glass of beer, and it goes, lands in the clear liquid and goes, explodes down to the bottom, and you got a glass of jolly nice but extremely fattening beer. I haven't drunk any for ages. I used to drink lots and lots of it, and in the days when I could drink fattening beer and not get fat, those days are long gone. These days I look at a piece of food and I get fat. Terrible situation. So that's tonight's drinking utensil, the Weizen glass. House of the King by Focus. Now we're talking. I think I can manage that one. Let's give it a go. It's looking to me increasingly as if I'm not going to get around to comics yet again, but that's okay, because I do have material prepared about it, and I really need to think up some appropriate music. So I might start off a bit, but Focus, House of the King. Let me just go through the necessary files for this. I'm ever so pleased about that recording. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Really looking forward to that. F is for Focus. There's this huge pile of alphabetical files. So down here somewhere, working my way through the E's. I'm on F. I've just passed Fleetwood Mac, so I must be close. And there they are, right next to that Fetus. Scraping Fetus off the wheel and all those wonderful records, but I'm not going to do those. House of the King. Where are we? What was House of the King on? It's a very good question. What was House of the King on? Do I have a copy of it? Good Lord. Was it on the first album? Yes, it was. It was on the first. I thought it was on the first album, but as I said to Pete earlier this evening, eyesight, it's a very good thing, I'm told. I wouldn't know. I don't really have anything of it. So let's have a go here. Focus. House of the King. Let's get a little bit of prog into the evening. And it would help if I switched the volume back up again, having cut it down to nothing to fade out the piece of the Spartacus theme. It wasn't the Spartacus theme that Hugh asked for. It was in fact the theme from the Onegin line, but it is taken from the ballet Spartacus, written by the Russian composer Aram Khachaturian. My favourite Khachaturian line was by Raymond Chandler, author of the Philip Marlowe detective books in the 1940s and 50s, and I think it's in The Long Goodbye, where in his marvellous clipped short sentence, no words wasted style, he ends a chapter by saying Marlowe's sitting at home at the end of the night, and it goes, I went to the record player. I put on Khachaturian's violin concerto. I put a record on by Khachaturian. Khachaturian called it a violin concerto. I called it a loose fan belt in a tractor factory, and to hell with it. I went to bed. End of chapter. Terrific stuff. Right, this is House of the King. For those of you out there who are massive Steve Coogan fans, you might recognise this as the theme tune from Saxondale. That's too loud. There you go, House of the King, theme music for the not particularly successful Steve Coogan series Saxondale, or at least I don't think it was particularly successful, and I never ever hear anybody talk about it. It was one of those that people were sitting in front, came right after Alan Partridge I think, and people were sitting all over the country in front of their TV sets, eagerly awaiting the new Steve Coogan series, and then sitting there scratching their heads when it turned out to be about a guy who had been a roadie in a rock group and was still kind of like growing out of it. Very obscure stuff, really. So, yeah, there we go. That's Focus with House of the King. 71 for the single, 72 for the album. Right, thank you. What have we got? Ooh, brew a wheat beer. Pete, do it. If you brew a wheat beer, I'll come and have a pint with you. I'll come and have a pint with you anyway, because I don't think we can do this in the near future, but certainly we will in the not so distant future. And Christine's coming for it. Okay, excellent. Is it on Focus 3? Right, okay. Is there a version on Focus 3? Is it the same version on Focus 3? Did they simply recycle it, or did they do a different version? They took off a little intro, didn't they? Or is that the single version? I think it's the single version. I don't know. Confused now. Andy enjoyed Saxondale. Debbie loved Saxondale. That's good. I saw about 3 or 4 of them. It's one of those periods when I did occasionally see a bit of television in between the long periods when I don't see any television at all. Right, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Tell me about it sometime. Tell me about how good it was, because I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. Certainly the people I was watching with didn't seem to take to it at all. Focus 3 had a remix. They all had a remix, didn't they? I think. The chap who produced Focus 3 was brought in, and he remixed all of the Focus albums, including the ones that it had nothing to do with, and wrote sleeve notes saying, well, I don't really know anything much about this record because I didn't produce it, so I've only just heard it for the first time, but here's a remix anyway. Jolly good show. No, I just thought it was something to play, and yes, I will whip this out because it's a kind of advanced treat. I've already given this a go. But I'm going to give it another go, and you will hear this again probably very shortly if you follow the daily recordings, because it's due to come up, but I haven't done it here, and I fancy having a go at it since I have figured out how to play it on recorder, so I might even get it relatively right. Bear with me a moment while I find the correct folder of music. Yes, here we go. Right. Okay. There's a little piece of, little instrumental piece by Frank Zappa. I will change recorder for it. See if I can get the key right. Frank Zappa. In typical Zappa fashion, it was premiered around 1970, I think, 1971. Rupert, you will know these things, by the Flo and Eddie band, but not really recorded, although there were live recordings that later surfaced on archival releases. And it made its first appearance in two versions, one with vocals and one without, on the One Size Fits All album in 1976. A terrific album. Everybody listen. That's over. Yeah. It sounds like Jethro Tull. Right. Okay. Yeah. Who said? Well, who was it? Who said when Pete? When I heard it the first time, I thought it was Jethro Tull. I actually saw the first episode of Saxondale, sitting in a room in blimey, somewhere near La Rochelle, in France, with Damien. Who used to be the other guitarist in the Australian Pink Floyd, and Damien was sitting there saying exactly the same thing. Mike, what's this piece? Sounds like Jethro Tull. And I went, no, it's Focus. It is. It's got a very Jethro Tull sound to it. Do I have any Jethro Tull? Is there any Jethro Tull I can play? I've played lots of Jethro Tull on these things. That's it's a bit of an obvious one for me, really, because Jethro Tull were a bit of a key band for me when I was a little teenager. I had their first album, which was not regarded as being typical Jethro Tull. It was much more blues and jazz based. Have I been dancing? I'm just bopping around on my chair, Nancy. Thoroughly enjoying myself. It's good fun. It's been good fun here, but I'm also quite happy obviously about this recorder that I've managed to pick up, and needless to say, I'm happy about the fact that tomorrow I shall be travelling off to go and meet all the guys after 19 months. Dear heavens, 19 months. And we'll all meet up, and we'll all probably do lots of hugging, and all probably end up rubbing masks together and then having to go off and wash ourselves with hand sanitizer, as we do these days, and then with a bit of luck on Thursday night we'll be there in Ipswich, on stage, blowing the mucus and the mushrooms and the viruses out of our saxophones, and Ricky will be ripping the branches off his basses, and Bonnie will be wondering what a drum kit is, and we'll all have a jolly good time, we hope. We'll enjoy it. Evelyn, you're going to have to tell me at some point whether it's Evelyn or is it Evelyn. Hugh wants to play out within a silent way. Bum, 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 in a silent way. Crikey. Do you know, I don't think I've ever tried to play in a silent way, so why not now? Anne, has Anne just arrived? Hi, Anne. We're just about to bow out, and I'm looking for the last piece to play. Once again, back to the music folder, down to M. Mel Torme, no. I could do Mel Torme's version of Strangers in the Night, but I'm sure you wouldn't want to hear that. Or would you? I don't know, actually. Maybe. Miles Davis, in a silent way. This is a big ask, Hugh. I know it's kind of an important piece for you. So, well, here's the album. It's here somewhere. The Complete in a Silent Way. I did at some point mean to do a version of Directions, but never quite did it. Let's see what this sounds like. taken from the 1969 sessions for the In a Silent Way album. There's the title track, played by lots of keyboard players, John McLaughlin on guitar, Wayne Shorter on saxophone, Miles Davis on trumpet. I've always loved the way Miles slightly fluffs the tune right at the end of it, but it works really well. Instead of playing the he plays that's it. I can't quite capture it, but he fluffs. He comes in like a semitone too low and finds his way back up again very quickly. But it's a little fluff, and it's a lovely thing because it just adds an extra touch of character to the piece. Incidentally, it does have a middle eight, it does have a B section, but he didn't record it. And it was written just to tie everything back up together nicely by Joe Zawinul, keyboardist Joseph Zawinul, who had been Cannonball Adderley's electric pianist from about 1962 through to 1969, at which point he started doing a lot of work with Miles and then went off and formed his own band called Weather Report, who became very popular, very successful in the 1970s, and Hugh and I went and saw them 3 times. Right guys, that's it. I'm going to go off and sort out paying for this fabulous recorder. I'm doing a little dance around the house, probably downstairs, because that's the floor's less likely to collapse if I start dancing. Cheers, Phil. Hope you enjoyed it in some way. Thank you, Evelyn. Thanks, Debbie. Hope to have a great time. Fingers crossed. It's going to be a very difficult tour, this one. All kinds of precautions and so on. See how it goes. Thanks, Pete. A beer or two when we get back. That would be good. Thank you, Hugh. And thank you for the good wishes. We'll stay safe, keep the music playing. Hi, Anne. Didn't say anything, but fair enough. I'm glad you were here for a bit. Yeah, thank you for all the good wishes. And I shall go and sort myself out now. Time for bed. Of course, it's so late for you, Christine. I will say hello to Tony if I see him. I don't know where he is, but if I happen to bump into him, I'll see him. And by the way, this is not the end. Before you all go rushing off, this is not the end. I will probably stop doing the lockdown karaoke sessions and call them the back to work karaoke sessions or something like that, but I will carry on. I do intend to do more of these things as and when. It's not going to be every day. There will be more streams if I can grab an opportunity during the tour. If a day looks good for it, then I will put it up on Facebook. I'll put up an announcement and hope you all can make it. Certainly, it's not giving up. Let's work around the tour, and I'll see what I can do. It's more than likely we'll end up getting the next stream from a dressing room in a venue somewhere in the United Kingdom. In the meantime, thanks guys. More music will be forthcoming, more daily recordings, only they won't be daily. It's unlikely to be anything much in the second half of this week, but we'll pick it up around about the weekend, and hopefully I'll be able to introduce this fabulous new recorder pretty soon. That would be great. So, I'm gone. Thank you all again. Lovely to see you. I shall go and download this and put it up on YouTube. Take care, everybody. Everybody stay safe. I was walking around Liverpool today and I felt like the last of the great mask wearers. Didn't see anybody else walking around a crowded town centre. I don't think I saw a single other person with a mask on their face. So stay safe and keep happy. I said keep happy. I was about to say be happy, but then I started thinking of Bobby McFerrin. So let's not go there. Guys, I'm gone. Good night. Take care. So it would end.